Welcome to Shastrikara's astrological series. This is the presentation about the sudden events in a native's life, of which one of them is the sudden death. In these presentations, I'm analyzing the event using the best astrological knowledge that I have it to the extent possible. In the first and second example, I analyzed two individual natives individually. This is In this presentation, I'm taking two individuals, example 3 and example 4. They both died on the same day, which is 29th March 2020, and I'm going to give the astrological justification for their sudden death. This native, Maria Carla Mercader, she was a CBS News reporter. She was born in 1965, November 28th, and at the age of 54, she died on 29th March 2020, which was a sudden death. So I picked this as my third example to explain what is the astrological reason behind this particular event. Let me start analyzing the natal chart for this particular native, Maria Carla. She was born on 28th November 1965, and here when you draw the chart using I used JHora software to draw this chart, and I just used the Chandra Lagna. So the moon is in Capricorn and the Lagnadipati is Saturn. So the first house lord is Saturn and moon is in Capricorn. So once the moon is in Capricorn, it tells you that the seventh house lord is again moon. So seventh house is Marakasthanamu. So the Marakasthanadipati moon is residing in Lagnasthanamu, Tanusthanamu, and the Lagnadipati is is Saturn. Now let's go and look at the second house. The second house lord, the first and second house lord is again Saturn. The second house lord Saturn is residing in its own house. So here you can see that the seventh house lord moon is residing in the house owned by Saturn, which is the first house, and Saturn owns the second house too, and Saturn is residing in the second house, which is another Marakasthanamu. So the one Marakasthanadipati is residing in the house owned by another Marakasthanadipati. So here, once you look at this particular point, Saturn and moon, they both become very, very important when you are analyzing, predicting the longevity of for this particular native. And the next one comes is the sixth house, because from second house I directly jump to the sixth house. The sixth house lord is Mercury. Mercury is in the 11th house from moon. That's fine, let's wait up to that point. And then in the sixth house you see Jupiter. Jupiter is the 12th house lord. So residing in the sixth house, Jupiter is directly aspecting the 12th house, its own house. Sixth house is Rogasthanamo, 12th house is Mokshasthanamo, or end of life. So the end of life lord is residing in the Rogasthanamo, or house of disease. So this tells you that for this particular native, the end of life and the place of the diseases or Rogasthanamo are very closely related, or in simple English, the native will have her end of life due to some disease. That's the thing. And the next one is seventh house. I told you the seventh house lord is moon. Moon is in the first house, and from moon it's direct from Capricorn, it's directly looking at the seventh house. And then comes the eighth house. The eighth house lord is Sun. Sun is residing in the 11th house. Sun is co-joined with Mercury. Mercury is the sixth house lord too. So in 11th house, the sixth and eighth house lords are residing, are co-joined. So now let's go and look at the aspects for each and every lord, the most important lords. First house lord is directly aspecting the seventh house, which is the Marakasthanamo. That's the reason why when you are looking at the longevity of this native, we need to look at the transit moon, because natal moon's seventh aspect is on the seventh house, which is a Marakasthanamo. And here natal moon owns the 7th house too. So transit moon plays a very vital role to tell you precisely, given a plus or minus 2.5 days, when the native's end of life is possible. The next thing you see is the second house lord Saturn. So let's look at the Saturn's aspects. Saturn's third aspect is on the fourth house owned by Mars. Nope, it's the house is empty, so we don't need to worry. Saturn's direct aspect is on the eighth house. Eighth house is Brujusthanamo, so Saturn is looking directly at the Brujusthanamo. And Saturn's 10th aspect is on the 11th house. In the 11th house, you see the Rogasthanadipati Mercury and the Mrutyusthanadipati Sun. So, when you look at it, Saturn's direct aspect is on the 8th house. That 8th house is owned by Sun, his bitter enemy. And Saturn's 10th aspect is again on Sun, its bitter enemy. So, now Saturn became the primary role planet when it comes to the end of life, because it owns the first and second houses. It's directly looking at the eighth house, and it's with its 10th aspect, it is looking at the eighth house lord, and Saturn and the eighth house lord Sun, they both are bitter enemies. The next comes is Jupiter, the sixth house, residing the sixth house. So the fifth aspect is on what do you call the 10th house, which is empty, forget it. The direct aspect is on the 12th house, I told you. And here in the 12th house, its own house, you have Mars. Mars is the 11th house lord and the 4th house lord, but Mars is a violent planet. Since Mars is in the end of life Mokshasthanamo, the 12th house, and Mars' direct aspect is on the 6th house, where the Mokshasthanadipati Jupiter is residing, and Mars' 8th aspect is on the 7th house, which is the Mrutyusthanamo. Mars also became one of the important planet when you are predicting the longevity for this particular native, or the type of how the native's end of life, what is the situation or scenario when the end of life is possible. And then comes the Jupiter's ninth aspect. When you look at Jupiter's ninth aspect, it is looking from the sixth house. The ninth aspect is on the second house. Second house is another Mrutyusthanamo, and the second house lord Saturn is residing in the second house. So here you look at it, look at that amazing combination. Jupiter is the Mokshasthanadipati, or the 12th house lord, is residing in the sixth house Rogasthanamo, having a direct aspect on its own house, the 12th house, and having a ninth aspect on the second house, where the Markasthanadipati Saturn is residing. So, and the most another important thing is Rahu. Rahu is a terminator. Whenever we are looking at the longevity of a native, the last thing I usually look at is Rahu. Rahu is in the 5th house. That means Rahu is having a direct aspect on the 11th house, where the 6th house lord Mercury and the 8th house lord Sun are residing. So if you look at it, the second house lord Saturn is having an aspect on the 11th house. Rahu is having an aspect on the 11th house. So whatever the planets that are in the 11th house became malefic. Since these two planets, Mercury and Sun, are owning the malefic houses, they became much stronger. Overall, when you look at this chart that using Chandra Lagna, the primary planets that are responsible is Saturn, the secondary is Jupiter, and the tertiary is Sun, because Sun is the 8th house lord, and Rahu is the terminator, is a catalyst at this point. We completed the analysis, the natal chart analysis using Chandra Lagna. So now we know that this native died on 29th March 2020, almost a week ago. Today is 5th April, so it's almost a week ago. And so on 29th March, let's go and look at the transit planets. Remember, I said that who are the planets, the primary, secondary, and tertiary planets that we need to look: Saturn, Jupiter, Sun. These three are very important here for this chart, and by default Moon and transit and Rahu. So there are 5 planets, the transit planets. We need to look at the positions of these 5 transit planets. Let's start with the moon. Transit moon is in the 5th house, co-joined with the natural terminator Rahu. So here the moon is the 7th house lord, which is the Marakasthanadipati. Natal moon is the Marakasthanadipati, and transit moon is now looking is co-joined with the terminator. So this is the precise time when the moon has decided for the end of life for this particular native. And if you look at it, along with natal Rahu, transit moon is also having a direct aspect on the 6th house lord natal Mercury and the 8th house lord natal Sun. Now let's go to the next important is transit Rahu. We have seen the transit moon co-joining with natal Rahu. So let's go and look at the transit Rahu. Where is transit Rahu? Transit Rahu is now in the 6th house, co-joined with the 12th house lord Jupiter, and they both are having a direct aspect on the 12th house, which is the end of life. And in 12th house you have a violent planet Mars. So another reason for the possibility for this particular native to have the end of life is along with transit. While transit moon gave you the precise time, transit Rahu just gave you a wide range, like 6 to 8 months of the range is when the transit Rahu is given, because transit Rahu, transit Jupiter, transit Mars, all the three, first transit Rahu will stay in that house for 1.5 years, transit Jupiter for 1 year, transit Saturn for 2.5 years, and Mars is maybe for 45 days. So when you look, and transit Sun is for 30 days. So when you look the major combination, transit Sun, Mars, Jupiter and Rahu, you got a span of 30 to 45 days. So this event can happen between 30 to 45 days. And then the question comes is, from 30 to 45 days you fine tune it and precisely say within 3 to 4 days, 5 days actually, 3 to 5 days is based upon the transit moon. On 29th March, transit moon is co-joined with Rahu, the terminator. So the event has happened. Now the next thing you look at is transit Sun. Since Sun is the 8th house lord, where is transit Sun? Transit Sun in March usually will be in Meena Rasi or Pisces, and if you look at it, the transit Sun is having a direct aspect on 9th house, the Mercury. That's fine, but natal Sun has, since the natal Sun has co-joined with Mercury is also the 6th house lord, so transit Sun is now looking at the house owned by the 6th house lord Mercury and the 9th house lord Mercury. Next comes the last one is the transit Saturn and Jupiter. Transit Jupiter is in Capricorn, co-joined with natal moon. So from there, transit Jupiter's direct aspect, 5th aspect is on the 5th house where transit moon and natal Rahu are residing. Transit Jupiter's direct aspect is on the 7th house, the Marakasthanamo, and transit Jupiter's 9th aspect is on the 9th house owned by Mercury. Transit Sun is also looking at 9th house. Transit Jupiter is also looking at 9th house from natal moon. Then comes the most important part is transit Saturn. Transit Saturn and transit Jupiter and transit Mars, all the three are co-joined in Capricorn and co-joined with are resided in Capricorn and co-joined with the natal moon. So transit Saturn's 3rd aspect is on Meena Rasi, and in Meena Rasi you see transit Sun there. So transit Saturn's 3rd aspect is on transit Sun. Natal Saturn's 10th aspect is on natal Sun, and natal Saturn's direct aspect is on the 8th house owned by natal Sun. So the combination of Saturn and Sun has activated it. Exactly by the time Sun came into Meena Rasi or Pisces, the chances became extremely high, like from 1 year it has been fine-tuned to 30 days. And once transit moon has moved from it, I was surprised that when transit moon was in Meena, probably transit Sun didn't enter Meena Rasi at that time. So when transit moon has moved to Taurus, that's when the event happened. And if you look at it, Saturn's direct aspect is done. Transit Saturn's 10th aspect is on the 9th house, so we don't need to worry. So that's the reason why this particular event, as end of life event, has happened for the Netu be is due to the transit Sun and transit Saturn's unique relationship. While there is a bondage, standard or strong um, relationship between natal Saturn and natal Sun. Just out of curiosity, I just went to see what is the Bhrigu Chakra Padathi and what is the cycle ruler. What is Who is the cycle ruler for the during the Bhrigu Chakra Padathi at the time of death? Here, when you look at it, the cycle ruler is Mars. So Mars, we know, is a violent planet, is residing in the 12th house, the end of life or moksha sthanamo, and directly looking at the 6th house Rogastanamo, where the 12th house Lord Jupiter is residing. So like I said earlier, even Bhrigu Chakra Padathi is telling that the Netu's end of life will be due to some disease. That's all it says. It doesn't tell you anything more than that. And then comes the question is, which house does it activate? According to Bhrigu Chakra Padathi, it activates the 7th house from its position, natal position, which is again the 6th house, where the 12th house Lord Jupiter is residing. So the disease, the Netu will have the end of life due to some disease. Up to that point, every, not even the transit analysis, but even the Bhrigu Chakra Padathi said the same thing. Now the question comes is, what type of disease could that be? Since transit Rahu has co-joined with the in the 6th house with the 12th house Lord Jupiter, the disease will be something that is, number one, known but cannot be cured, or unknown disease, because Rahu, the terminator, always creates something that is surprising or unknown. So that is the reason why this particular Netu has died of a disease that is known to everyone but cannot be cured.